it's linear anymore. And you can have very small groups of people who are highly empowered, uh, both in Washington and out in the regions. And I think this is partly what we're exploring now is who has the power to do what? Like, where does the power lie to get stuff done and in what way? Yeah, I don't think it's so easy anymore. And you can't also you can't make assumptions anymore about how somebody thinks about an issue, right? It used to be, like, even at the beginning of this pandemic, if you'd asked most people, will young people object to being vaccinated? They would have said, of course they won't. They're intelligent, they're educated, they will. And then it turns out young people are objecting to being vaccinated. It's super interesting. It's the Gen Zers who are like, I don't know, this has happened really fast. I don't know if I trust a vaccine that was developed this quickly. I have a teenager who's in this space, so I hear from the teenagers, it's global as well. It's not just in one part of the world. So that's the thing. When you talk about the movement of power, the decentralization of power, it's also about a change in what can you assume? And I think that's part of a bigger issue, which is that we no longer have a reliable global commons.
Yes.
And by that, what I mean is a common set of beliefs. You can go, oh yeah, of course, we all agree. Yeah, no, we don't all agree on really basic stuff, which is back to what John Vervaeke and Daniel Schmachtenberger are working on, is like even the words that we use where we don't agree on what is the meaning of the word. It's getting that granular. So you kind of can't assume anything.
Yeah, these thought bubbles seem to be really keeping us from finding a common narrative, common truths, and just arriving at something that can be thought of as quote unquote truth that we could perhaps rally behind in a common project. So I want to pull on that thread and maybe take us a couple steps back. Given these thought bubbles and given this exponential age that we find ourselves in with the doubling of information every 12 hours, I've always been curious about some of the multi-generational frameworks that are used to make sense of global politics and geopolitics, and whether it's Neil Howe's Fourth Turning or Dalio's recent essays on the rise and fall of empires.
Yeah.
And I wonder if those have ceased to be, or maybe even adding the Thucydides trap, that Thucydides notion of the clash of a rising and a decadent power. If those frameworks are still valid in the context of the current exponential age environment.
Oh, I love this question. And I think it's the crucial question. So, throughout human history, you have two very powerful conflicting forces. You have chaos on the one side, and you have cosmos on the other. Cosmos is always meant to be a kind of a world, a description of what makes the world what it is. And so how do you get from chaos to cosmos? You basically impose order on things through a thought process. So like in economics, we like to use math, right? We throw math over the world economy. We quantify everything and we say, right, that we make decisions based on the quantifiable reality that is the economy. So economies that are growing fastest are doing best. But now everybody goes, wait a minute, my economy is growing fast. My longevity is greater. My standard of living is higher, but I'm unhappy. Like suddenly we start to go, well, there's a Bhutanese idea of a happiness index where actually you're not growing fast. Your standard of living is low, but everybody's happy, right? So that's a different way of interpreting reality. But you're using math as the kind of construct for sorting out the chaos. Storytelling is another way. And that goes to your previous point, which is really important, is that common narrative. And I think one of the things making it hard for people is they want a common narrative when in fact, we're in what I've been calling a quantum recovery, which is multiple conflicting narratives, all of which are true at the same time. And in that sense, it's a lot like what happened in the 1920s in the aftermath of not just World War I, but the Spanish flu pandemic. And some people were just so happy to be alive after all that. And they partied and they, built a future. And some people were completely devastated by those events and got thrown off the world economy like a hamster being thrown from a wheel and could never find their way back. So one group we know through the novel The Great Gatsby, because they were drinking champagne and having a great life. And one novel is The Grapes of Wrath, where a whole generation, literally were displaced from the land and ended up in the dust bowls with literally no life to be had. So they were both true at the same time. This is similar. And I think it's hard for people to process multiple simultaneous competing realities. But actually, that's life. We often have that situation. So yeah, which one are you going to invest in? And my answer is whatever you've decided is true will be what you find. So if you're an optimist like me, I see examples of the 1920s and things going beautifully everywhere I look. But if I were a pessimist, I could find many examples of economic devastation and people who were lost and won't find their way back. So basically what you look for, just like in physics, you influence, like Schrodinger's cat. Your observation of reality causes the reality that you will experience.